Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the whole world of building and, sustaining a business.
Yeah,
You've given us some really fascinating stories, lots of different perspectives on the entrepreneurial journey.
absolutely. It's a real mix. The challenges, the successes, those make or break decisions founders face.
So, our goal here,
hmm
it's really to pull out those really valuable nuggets, right? The surprising lessons.
Exactly. The surprising stuff. Help understand what it really takes to bring an idea to life and make it stick.
And that's what we want to do for you, listening. We know you want to get up to speed quickly, find those aha moments, get the big picture without drowning in detail.
hmm We're here to guide you through it, highlighting different angles.
Okay, so let's jump in. Where do these business ideas even come from? It seems like there's no single answer.
That's right. It's really varied. Sometimes it's very deliberate, like Jose Andres with Haleo.
Oh, yeah.
He literally said he found the concept because he was actively searching for an opportunity.
So, like, intentionally hunting for it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Proactive, not just waiting for lightning to strike.
But then you have the other end of the spectrum, right? Ideas that just pop up, maybe from a passion or a personal problem.
Definitely. Think about Lisa Price and Carol's daughter.
Okay.
She started making lotions, sort of homemade stuff. Her mom, Carol, was the one who suggested, hey, why don't you try selling these at a flea market?
Wow, really? Just like that?
Pretty much. And then, the Oprah moment happened, and boom, it just took off.
So that personal connection, that authenticity, it really resonated.
It did. It wasn't some grand market analysis, just passion finding an audience and being open to where that leads.
And sometimes the first idea isn't the idea, is it? It morphs into something else.
Oh, for sure. Look at Whitney Wolford. Her initial concept, Merci, was like a positive social network for women.
Not a dating app initially.
No, not at all. It was focused on compliments, positivity,
Yeah.
that eventually, through iteration, became Bumble.
Interesting. So it's like the core value was there, but the application changed.
Precisely. Learning, adapting based on, what people actually needed or responded to. It's an evolution.
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of connects to what Paul Graham talks about, doesn't it? Identifying a real problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when you have.
Right. He mentioned that in response to Bruce Gaither's idea, which didn't quite hit the mark.
Exactly. Because if you're solving your own problem, you get it. You understand the nuances, the pain points much more deeply.
You're not just guessing what people need.
Right. It avoids that whole solution looking for a problem trap.
Okay, so let's say you have an idea. Maybe you hunted for it, maybe it found you, maybe it evolved. How do you actually get started? The practical side.
Well, those early days are almost always about being incredibly resourceful. Bootstrapping is super common.
Just using your own money, basically.
Yeah, your savings, maybe some tight budgeting,
Mm.
minimizing outside cash. Chicken Salad Chick did that for quite a while.
Okay.
Airbnb's story is legendary maxed out credit cards.
And the cereal? Didn't they sell cereal?
They did. Political themed cereal, believe it or not, just to raise cash.
Wow. And method, the cleaning products.
Started with personal savings, plus some money from friends and family. It shows that making a lot happen with very little can build a strong base.
That initial grit seems vital.
It is, and passion fuels that grit. Sam Altman at Y Combinator even mentioned they look for companies doing a lot with little capital. It shows commitment.
But it must be terrifying, right? Pouring everything in, the uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Which leads to another interesting point, the fallback plan.
Having a plan B, does that actually help?
It seems to, psychologically at least. Look at Damon John. He kept his Red Lobster job while building FUBU.
No way.
Yep. Jim Koch had his Boston Consulting Group background. Sarah Blakely was still selling fax machines while starting Spanx.
So it's like a safety net.
Kind of. Mark Cuban bartended. David Neeleman was a travel agent. Jane Warwan taught skincare. Knowing you could go back to something seems to free people up to take the risk.
It dampens the fear, maybe. Allows you to focus.
That seems to be the idea. Lessens the anxiety.
Yeah.
And alongside all this, you have to do your homework.
Know your stuff, basically.
Deeply. Your product, your customers, your industry. That knowledge builds confidence, which you desperately need early on.
Okay, idea, bootstrapping, maybe a fallback, deep knowledge. Now, how do you get people to actually pay attention?
And right, getting noticed. The first step is often about creating buzz.
Like initial excitement?
Yeah, getting people talking.
Yeah.
Method had that challenge. How do you make soap exciting?
Good point.
Hollywood's great at this.
Yeah.
Think about the promotion for The Hangover. Those intriguing trailers, the images. They built curiosity.
Ah, yeah, you couldn't escape those. You had to know what it was about.
Exactly. But buzz is fleeting, right? It needs to turn into something more lasting.
You mean word of mouth?
Precisely.
Mm.
Buzz gets people in the door, but word of mouth keeps them coming and brings their friends. The Hangover is a perfect example again.
How?
The buzz got people to see it. But the reason it became such a huge hit was people telling each other, you have to see this movie. That personal recommendation.
That trusted referral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reid Hoffman called word of mouth an open sesame. It unlocks growth in a way paid marketing often can't.
So it's like the Holy Grail, as Zuckerberg apparently said.
Pretty much. And you see it drive growth organically. Five Guys Burgers, they didn't have a huge ad budget early on. People just loved the burgers and told everyone.
Simple as that.
Well, simple concept, hard to achieve.
Allie Webb's Dry Bar started with her straight-at-home service blowing up in a local online mommy group. Pure word of mouth.
So the absolute key then is the product has to be really good, something people want to talk about.
Absolutely. It has to be remarkable, shareable, give people a reason to recommend it.
Okay, buzz, word of mouth. That brings customers.
Yeah.
But eventually you usually need more money, right?
Let's talk funding.
Yes. OPM, other people's money. Crucial for growth for many businesses.
And often the first other people are.
Friends and family. We mentioned method in a way, but also Ron Shaich at Panera, Steve Ells at Chipotle, even Jeff Bezos got early money from family for Amazon.
It's amazing how common that is.
And there's a big advantage there. Friends and family, as Eric Ryan from Method noted, often invest in you, the founder, as much as the specific idea.
Ah, so they trust you to figure it out, even if the idea changes.
Exactly. It gives you room to iterate. Ron Shaich's dad apparently wasn't sold on the Aubon Payne deal, but he backed Ron.
That flexibility must be invaluable early on. What about reaching beyond your immediate circle?
Crowdfunding has become huge. Platforms like Kickstarter, Allbirds used it very successfully. It lets you tap into a much wider network.
Get smaller amounts from more people.
Right. And regardless of where the early money comes from, friends, family, crowdfunding, you have to use it wisely. Don't get complacent.
And the process itself can be useful, asking for money.
Definitely. It forces you to really sharpen your pitch, your story, your whole idea. It's a feedback loop.
Makes sense. So you've got funding, maybe some traction, but it's never smooth sailing, is it? Challenges always come up.
Always. And dealing with them often comes down to, again, feedback and iteration.
Constantly tweaking the product.
Yeah. RX Bar famously gave out samples in CrossFit gyms just to get that direct, honest feedback. Cliff Bar tested endlessly to get the recipe right.
So embracing the feedback, even if it's tough.
And managing fear. Fear of failure is normal, almost universal for entrepreneurs. But successful ones don't let it stop them. They learn from setbacks.
Keep pushing. What about established markets if you're trying to break into a crowded space?
Sometimes you need to find what Peter Thiel calls a side door.
A different angle?
Exactly. A niche, maybe. RX Bar did that in the protein bar market, focusing on minimal ingredients, the paleo thing. It cut through the noise.
Find your unique spot. Location matters too, apparently.
Surprisingly often, Ben & Jerry's moved early on. Shopify thrived in Ottawa. Stitch Fix chose Silicon Valley for tech talent. Bear 3 found its groove in Portland.
So the environment can really impact potential.
It can. And sometimes, the whole initial plan just isn't working. You have to pivot.
Make a major change.
A fundamental shift. Stacy's Pita Chips started as a food cart selling sandwiches. The chips were a side thing that took off.
Wow.
And Glitch the Game became Slack. The underlying tech concept of massive collaboration was still there, but applied totally differently.
So being willing to make those big changes is key.
Crucial. Recognizing when the path needs to change.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Beyond product, funding, market fit, what about the deeper stuff, the why?
Purpose. Yeah, that's increasingly seen as vital, having a mission beyond just making money.
Like Rent the Runway.
Exactly. Their goal isn't just renting dresses. It's about changing how women feel about themselves, giving access to that feeling. Headspace wants to demystify meditation, make it accessible.
That deeper why connects with people?
Connects with customers, connects with employees. It builds a stronger foundation.
Yeah.
And that ties into company culture.
Building a team around shared values.
Yes. Brian Scudamore at 1-800-GOT-OT-JUNKIE really emphasized that. And the Netflix culture deck is famous for codifying their values and expectations.
But you mentioned a potential downside too, the cult of personality.
Right. The cautionary tale is American Apparel and Dove Charney. When the culture is too tied to one person, and that person falters.
The whole thing can crumble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Build the culture on values, not just one person's charisma.
Okay, so the business is growing, culture is strong, but then comes maybe the biggest decision for a founder: sell or keep going.
The founder's dilemma, as Noam Wasserman calls it.
Wealth versus control.
That's the core trade-off. The rich versus king decision. Do you cash out, potentially losing control, or stay in charge, maybe limiting the financial upside?
Tough call.
Any examples? Gary Erickson at Cliff Bar famously agreed to sell to Quaker Oats, then had second thoughts and bought the company back because he wanted to retain control and its culture.
Wow, that's bold.
It is. On the other hand, Angie's Boom C Jicapop grew to a point where acquisition made sense, given the timing and opportunities. External factors play a huge role.
So it's very situational, very personal.
Deeply personal and strategic. And speaking of personal, the human element often gets lost in strategy talk, but it's fundamental.
You mean things like kindness, relationships?
Absolutely. Patagonia is built on values like respect, dignity, generosity. It matters. And managing co-founder relationships is critical.
Conflicts happen, right?
They do. How they're handled can make or break a company. The stories from Reddit, bonobos, they highlight how important addressing those tensions is.
Because it's all built by people, ultimately.
Exactly. Which brings us to luck.
Ah, yes. The elephant in the room sometimes.
It definitely plays a role, more than many successful people like to admit initially. Rod Drury said his view on luck's importance evolved over time.
He realized it played a bigger part later on.
Yeah. But it's not just random chance falling from the sky. It's often about being ready when an opportunity appears.
Seizing the moment.
Right. Southwest Airlines benefited hugely from airline deregulation. They were positioned to take advantage. Ron Shaich, Kendra Scott, Toby Lipke at Shopify, the Not founders, they all capitalized on timing and circumstances.
And acknowledging privilege helps too. Any built-in advantages.
Recognizing those is important. But there's also agency. You can work hard, network, stay open, and sort of create your own luck to some extent.
Be in the right place, doing the right things when opportunity knocks.
Something like that.
Okay, last point. This whole journey, it sounds incredibly stressful. How do founders cope?
The pressure is immense. Anxiety is common. Strong support systems are vital: partners, family, mentors, other founders.
People who get it.
Yes. And simple things like reflection. Some founders mention just writing down worries help them process things.
Acknowledging the pressure, finding ways to manage it.
Essential for long-term survival.
Wow. Okay, this has been a really rich deep dive. We've covered so much ground where ideas come from, that early bootstrapping grit.
The power of buzz turning into word of mouth, funding strategies.
Adapting, pivoting, the importance of purpose and culture.
Those huge decisions about selling, the human side of things, and yes, even luck.
We really hope that for you listening, hearing these different stories, these different takes, has sparked some ideas or resonated with your own experiences or plans.
Yeah, think about what stood out to you. Which insights made you go, uh-huh.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider that relationship between planning everything meticulously and then the sheer unpredictability of it all. How can you best prepare yourself to spot and grab those lucky breaks when they show up while still building something solid, something based on real purpose and connection?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It might just be.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.